It's time for a recap. This time it won't be about shoes, but rather my training and races. It's been a strong year. I ran over 2700 kilometers, participated in 6 races ranging from 5k to a marathon, did some strength training and cleaned up my diet. I guess I don't have much to complain about. How did my training look this year? For practically the entire season, I trained as directed by the Runna app. It's a relatively new app, subscription-based, but a promise of solid training and good results seems like an acceptable deal. And for me, it worked perfectly. I improved my personal bests across all distances I care about. The app generated a rather ambitious and demanding training plan. Speed sessions were truly fast and long runs were often progressive. I feel these elements significantly contributed to my excellent preparation, especially for longer distances. The mileage was also ambitious for me. Previously, before a marathon, my weekly mileage maxed out at around 65k. This time it went up to 92k, with 60-65k being a regular weekly baseline. Initially it seemed crazy to me, but Runna gradually increased the mileage, and to be honest, I didn't even notice the ramp up much. How did my races go? I won't dive into much detail about each race, but will briefly summarize what worked and what didn't. You might be wondering, why only 6 races? Well, I'm the kind of person who prefers fewer but more targeted races. If something had gone wrong in one of my key races, I would have sought alternatives and the number of races would have increased, but fortunately that wasn't necessary this year. So let's break it down. The season started with a 5k race in Warsaw alongside the Warsaw Half. My main goal was simple, sub 20. It was freezing cold, and due to an overly long warm-up, I couldn't get into the starting corral near the 20-minute pacemaker. Instead, I ended up next to the 30-minute pacer, turning the first kilometer into a slalom race. Halfway through, I was about 10 seconds behind pace, and I thought maybe not today. But I decided to push anyway. With 1 kilometer to go, I was still about 10 seconds behind, but at least it wasn't increasing. The last kilometer was all-out effort, and I crossed the finish line in 19:54, making up around 15 seconds in the final stretch. Pure joy, tears were shed, I won't deny it, and the self-imposed pressure finally lifted. I ran the race in Hoka Rocket X2. 2 weeks later, I tackled my main goal for the first half of the season, the Berlin Half. My target was 1:35, and let me say up front, it didn't happen. It was very warm and I wasn't prepared for that. By 6th or 7th kilometer at target pace, I felt it wasn't going to happen. At 11th k, my watch showed a heart rate of 190, confirming it. From 15th, 16th kilometer onward, I had to alternate between running and walking, finishing in 1 hour 43 minutes. I wasn't too upset though, because I knew I gave it my all, and under different weather conditions I might have hit my goal, but that's just speculation now. Lesson learned, and the trip to Berlin was fantastic. I ran the race in Hoka Rocket X2. By June, I had started preparing for my main event of the year, the Berlin Marathon in September. Along the way, I had 2 smaller control races to test myself, knowing they were integrated into my training plan with no taper beforehand. The first was a 10k in Berlin at the Adidas Runners City Night in late July. I ran this race last year in very hot weather and got completely wiped out. This year, the weather was much better, rainy and around 20 degrees Celsius. Perfect for chasing a PB. My 10k PB was 2 years old and I managed to run a smart race with a slight negative split. Considering I had done 27k long run a few days prior, I was shocked at how well I performed, finishing in 42 minutes 16 seconds and improving my PB by 3 minutes. I ran the race in Saucony Endorphin Speed 4. The next test turned into a just for fun run. A few of us from Swords Athletics traveled to Düsseldorf at New Balance's invitation for the Die Kuhmeile event, which included a mile race and a 5k. I ran the 5k, but with the race starting at 2 p.m. in 31 degrees Celsius heat, I decided to take it easy and soak up the atmosphere. I also captured some footage for the review of New Balance SC Trainer V3 and finished in 21 minutes 37 seconds. This brings us to the main event of the year, the Berlin Marathon. I made a separate video about my preparation and execution, so here's a quick summary. It all went exactly as planned. No major crises, perfect weather, well-planned nutrition and consistent pacing. My target was 3:30 and I finished in 3:28:08, so 15 minutes faster than my previous PB. I still had some energy left at the finish line, which is a great sign for the future. I ran the marathon in ASICS Superblast 2. The season didn't end with Berlin. The only distance I hadn't improved on was the half marathon, so I planned to run one more in Valencia a month later. Initially, I intended to treat it as a fun run, but the thought of achieving PBs across all distances in 2024 convinced me to go for it. The target was the same as in Berlin, 1:35. The weather didn't cooperate, it rained the entire time, but the temperature was perfect. The beginning was tough, but I found my rhythm and kept picking up the pace. To my surprise, the second half of the race felt light, even as I pushed harder. I crossed the finish line in exactly 1 hour 33 minutes, beating my PB by 6 minutes. I ran the race in Diadora Gara Carbon. After Valencia, I started working with a coach. While the Rana app was excellent this year, I missed the ability to talk to a real person about my training, so now I've joined Mikołaj Raczyński's team, who is the head coach of Adidas Runners Warsaw. We've been working together for nearly 2 months and it's been great. We'll see how it goes next year. My plans for 2025? 2025 will be a year focused on half marathons for me. I plan to run in Prague and Cardiff, as well as the Bridge Run, a special half marathon from Copenhagen to Malmö. I'll also do a few shorter local races, but nothing major. What about marathons? If I'm lucky enough to get into Sydney or New York, I'll run there. Otherwise, 2025 will be a marathon-free year. And goals for next year? I have 2 main goals. So first one is break 1:30 in the half marathon, and the second is break 40 minutes in the 10K. Whether I get there remains to be seen. And how do your plans for 2025 look? Are you happy with your results this year? Let me know in the comments. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Check out my Instagram and TikTok, and I will see you in the next one.